You talk about excellence.
Right.
You
I
need
was
to
just
put
thinking
people,
that. You talk
exactly.
about excellence.
And you need
Is
to put
that
people,
an example
you
of
need to put
excellence?
people who are qualified. See, that's what I'm saying. You talk about DEI hire. These
Right.
are DEI hires.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Kenton and Habiba. Today we are getting into it because serious times call for serious discussion. Welcome, Kenton.
Glad to be here.
He's back again on the pink couch, so you know.
That's a clue. Every time I'm on the pink couch.
For those of you that are new here, my name is Habiba. This is Kenton, husband of over 30 years. And we're very honest and straightforward with you and with each other. We don't always agree. That's okay. As you're aware, just last Thursday, a Black Hawk helicopter ran into a commercial plane in Washington, D.C. After that horrific crash in D.C., during his press conference, our president was blaming DEIA and the FAA for the crash or contributing to that crash. What are your thoughts on that?
You had a airliner coming in, American Airlines. He was doing everything right. He was on track. He was the same track as everybody else that came in. It's probably the same track as they've had for 25 years or more. He's coming in the path. And for some reason, he had a helicopter that was at the same height, obviously when they hit, but pretty much the same height, and going at an angle that was unbelievably bad.
Saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring, and what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power, you have to go by psychological quality, and psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden, and Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. It shouldn't have happened.
When you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. We want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control, and we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry.
What are my thoughts on it?
Yeah, honestly.
It's a little early to be attributing anything at this point. I mean, even the preliminary shows right now that there's a couple contributing factors, but you got to allow, they just pulled the black box out the river from both aircrafts.
Why is it bothersome that he would point to DEI of all things?
Well, it's not that well, first of all, it's bothersome because, first of all, he's attributing an accident to a program without anything to back it up. That's the thing, is that he's making an assertion if it's fact, and then there's nothing to support that
we know of.
Yeah, but even if what he knows of, like how exactly, I mean, there's not, he can't see, this is the thing, is it's like you can assert something, but we assert stuff all day, but just like when you do it and you try and assert something as a fact or truth, you have to support it with something. Then it's just an opinion. And the things we already know as part of his agenda, as he has already done, is to eliminate DEIA programs in the military and across federal agencies. So that's very clear. He made that executive order, and then he also had it in the OMB memo saying that's what they're going to stop funding for, right? So this is just part of it. But what is absurd is that he's taking a tragedy of all this suffering and he's trying to spin it for a political aim.
You are in danger. We are only 10 days into the Trump administration, and we've already had the first fatal commercial plane crash in over 16 years with no survivors. While emergency crews are still pulling at least 65 innocent American bodies out of the Potomac River, our president is on TV blaming this deadly crash on minorities and women. So let's not mince words. The president's press conference was despicable, and everything he said was to avoid his own personal responsibility for this tragedy. And make no mistake, Donald Trump is personally responsible for this tragedy. One of the first things he did as president was to fire the head of the TSA, fire the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, who are the people responsible for examining safety issues at airlines and airports, to freeze the hiring of air traffic controllers, a group of essential workers already stretched to their limits, and to fire nearly 100 top FAA security officers. The head of the Federal Aviation Administration himself, a man who was unanimously confirmed by the Senate in 2023 for his skill and competence, was forced to retire 1 year into his 5-year term after facing relentless criticism from Elon Musk because he dared to fine SpaceX for failing to follow safety requirements. And Donald Trump took all of these steps to make us less safe while simultaneously hiring a completely inappropriate and unqualified Fox News host to lead the military and an MTV star to be Secretary of Transportation. And now we have had an unnecessary, tragic mid-air collision that includes the aviation industry and the military. So those deaths are on their hands. We should be having a thorough and transparent investigation on what happened and what went wrong, but we are never going to get that from this administration. What we are getting is press conferences blaming DEI. So let's be clear. From the moment Trump was sworn in, he has done nothing but demonize and undermine federal workers. These humble heroes who go to work every day and keep us safe. The dedicated experts who are trained to help Americans prevent and mitigate and respond to emergencies and tragedies. Lest we forget, Donald Trump deregulated the air safety industry during his last administration, putting oversight into the hands of the airlines so they could make more profit. Since then, doors have flown off, wheels have fallen off, engines have caught fire, and there have been mid-air near misses across the station, which is why for 4 years, Secretary Buttigieg fought to hire more air traffic controllers and improve working conditions. But under the Trump administration, all of that work is in hard reverse.
And I just wanted to look at some of the comments. Trump is probably accurate. Elon Musk said it. If you lower the standard, you increase the risk. So what is your thoughts to that comment?
Well, first, I haven't seen these comments. And so
Right. He's not seen these comments. I'm reading this to him for the first time.
Yeah, if you lower standards, again, what is the context? What standards are you referring to? There's a big leap. See, this is part of, again, causation and whether it be actual and proximate cause. The thing is that this big leap of logic, he's probably right. Based on what? You lower the standards, therefore the standards have been lowered. But you have to show that correlation, that causation. It's not a correlation, it's a causation. Did those standards actually cause the accident? You can't just say something and then say that's proof.
Right. Okay. And on top of that, I feel like...
That's like saying that if you had a car accident, the accident itself is proof that there was negligence. You know that's not true. If you hit some water and you hydroplane, does that automatically... Because if that was the case, then insurance companies would have a field day all day and say like, oh, you're at fault, we don't pay. Right? Because the proof is the accident. That must mean there was a lower standard, your standard of driving, therefore you're guilty, end of story. That's not how it works. So if it doesn't work in your personal life, then why do we ascribe that type of logic to here? It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense.
And my big thing is no one is arguing that we need standards. No one is arguing that, especially in certain professions, like when you think about healthcare, or in this case, flying a plane or flying a helicopter. No one is arguing, at least I'm not, that we need standards. Absolutely. But to jump to the conclusion that DEI is the reason why there was an accident, and DEI is the reason that the standards were low. Just seems like such a huge leap.
Well, first of all,
people aren't critical of what they're thinking.
But it's also the thing is like it's like again that assumption that one thing explains everything.
Right.
Oh, we had a truck accident, DEI. We had an oil spill, DEI. It's like you start getting to yourself where it's like, wait a minute, are we really being critical thinkers? Right? Are we really thinking about it? How about maybe the other thing too is that they've been increasing traffic. This is a regional airport. This is not the large airport at Washington, D.C. This is the local, smaller airport. But they've been increasing the traffic there, and they've been having debates whether they need to basically start less small aircraft or access to helicopters because there's too much congestion. So maybe that's what it is that it's not a DI issue. It is basically a planning issue. Just like having accidents in high traffic areas or having no crosswalks, and then you start having accidents where children are getting hurt. Do you then say that's DEI, or are you saying like, no, it's not good planning because you're not putting bicycle paths, crosswalks, or lowering the speed limit for safety reasons?
Right.
See, this is the thing. You need to look at all things first.
Right, before you just jump to conclusions.
Now, if you have evidence to show that it is truly DEI, that they put someone that didn't have the capacity, couldn't do the job, failed the test. Now, being again a traffic controller, it's like over a year to 2 year of training. But maybe they failed the exam. They were someone's cousin. They were put up there. Then yeah, you have an argument. But until you have actual proof of causation, let's just slow it down a little bit and then figure out what's going on so it doesn't happen again.
The sad thing about today is we should all be mourning as a country the loss of many lives in a tragic accident. And we should be working together to help understand how this happened so that we can prevent it from happening again. Instead, President Trump, you're blaming a marginalized population of people who already suffer so much inequity. People with disabilities are the most marginalized of marginalized. Well, guess what, Donald Trump? I have a disability. And I, like you, am a reality star, or at least was. However, I take being in the public eye as a privilege and a responsibility to do the right thing. Unfortunately, today you are continuing to hurt more people who are oftentimes suffering and dealing with bias and, in the disability community, structural ableism. Well, I don't know, Donald Trump, you said that, people with disabilities, shouldn't have these jobs, shouldn't be doing these things. But guess what? Guess what my job is? I'm a physician. I'm a neonatologist. I save the tiniest of babies' lives. And I think I'm a pretty damn good doctor. I went to Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. I work now at Boston Children's, a Harvard hospital. And you know what? I didn't get any special privileges. And in fact, I had to fight against ableism to get to where I am. And the reason I did a television show was honestly just so that I could help to get rid of bias and discrimination so that my kids and others might have a better chance at leading healthy, happy lives and doing the good work that they want to do. Yet today, your comments make that even harder than it's ever been. Just in case you didn't know the facts, President, in my field of being a physician, it has already been found that physicians with disabilities actually provide oftentimes better and definitely more empathetic and innovative care. Something I think we all want in our doctor. In addition to that, when you look at all professions, employees with disabilities have better retention rates, they work harder, and are overall better employees. So when you start to, assume that an error happened because someone had a disability, you're hurting a lot of people out there.
And really all it does is it highlights people's prejudice. Really, that's what it is. It's like it's so easy to jump to conclusions. Oh, it's the damn minorities. Oh, it's the immigrants. Oh, they're the reason our standards are so low.
But again, with DEI, DEI encompasses these.
Right, it's not even, exactly, it's not even just.
It's to be inclusive, to also include people that are differently able. Because the thing is that someone in a wheelchair can still do the job.
Right.
If it doesn't require them to be lifting or walking and stuff, but but again, it's about ascribing deficiencies in individuals that are different.
Right.
And now you start seeing that DI now is becoming basically
code
word. Right. Just like affirmative action was a code word.
Right.
Because it's like if someone was successful and they were black, or they were Asian, or they were Latino, that was an affirmative hire. Right. That used to be in our day, in the 80s, because Reagan made that a thing.
Right.
And so it's like, being affirmative hire. That's why Clarence Thomas has a big thing on his shoulders because he felt like everyone looks at him that he was an affirmative action hire, and now in a sense there's a sense of self-hatred for himself if you read it into some of his work. So that's the thing. Now you have DEI. Now, I'm not saying DEI is perfect. No, there's a lot of problems with it, and you shouldn't be sitting there saying one side or the other side. You shouldn't be choosing people based on just one type of quality. You should be looking for the best person, best qualified person.
Right.
And many times the people that have been teaching DEI weren't properly trained either, or the programs were not properly developed.
But it just, I don't know, it just blows my mind that that's one of the first things he decided to spew out of his mouth he's looking for blame.
He's looking for ways to push an agenda.
It's so easy.
But it's pushing an agenda, and it's exploiting suffering.
Right.
It's like, look, fine, if this is your agenda, and obviously there's people that support that, fair enough. If that's what you want to do, it's going to be a fight, good enough. But don't use a disaster to insert that.
As I stated earlier, we recorded this video on January 31st, which was Friday, the day after the plane crash in D.C. Little did we know there was another major crash, this time in Philadelphia, on the day that we are recording this video, so I felt compelled to include it.
Let me start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene.
The country is tonight unbelievably witnessing its second horrific plane crash in just the past 3 days. Tonight, it is a small plane, a Learjet, that has crashed in northeast Philadelphia. It sent up a fireball in a densely populated neighborhood that includes both homes and also a shopping center. I'm going to show you some footage here of the crash. What you're about to see here is footage from a Ring camera security system that did capture the moment of the crash. This plane, this Learjet, had just departed from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. It's not the main airport in Philly, but a small airport. It was en route to Springfield Branson Airport in Missouri. This is around 6:30 p.m. Local time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. The crash site is near the Roosevelt Mall in Northeast Philly. But again, homes there, cars there. This is a densely populated part of a big U.S. city. First responders very quickly reached the scene. They found fires burning, several homes and cars on fire because of the impact and the debris. Local officials, including the mayor of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania's governor, Josh Shapiro, are in contact. They are helping coordinate the response. We may be hearing from Governor Shapiro in just a moment as local officials continue to brief on the scene. We had very quickly initial reports that said this plane was on some sort of medical assignment when it took off. That is confirmed now. Just before we got on the air tonight, we got this statement from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. Quote, today Jet Rescue Air Ambulance experienced a crash. The aircraft, XA-UCI Learjet 55, crashed after takeoff from Philadelphia. There were 4 crew members and 2 passengers, a pediatric patient and escort on board. So 4 crew, 2 passengers. One of the passengers is a pediatric patient. This was an air ambulance flight. The air ambulance company said no further information is available at this time. At this time, we can't confirm any survivors. No names are being released until family members have been notified. Our immediate concern is for the patient's family, our personnel, their families, and other victims that may have been hurt on the ground. More information will be released as it becomes available. Again, that from the air ambulance company that was operating this flight. A representative for Jet Rescue Air Ambulance tells one of our producers tonight that the pediatric patient on board was a female minor, so a girl, a citizen of Mexico, who had completed treatment and was on her way back home.
We are following some breaking news out of Houston, Texas, after a United airplane caught fire at Bush's airport right there. It did have to be evacuated. So far, no reports of any injuries, but I did want to share some video that's coming into our studio. Take a listen.
No, it's on fire! Oh my God. Please get us on. It's on fire. This is jet.
From our Fox 26 Houston. Meanwhile, you are taking a live look at Houston, Texas right now. I did want to share some more information about the flight from Houston to New York that did have to be evacuated after it caught fire during takeoff. That's according to the FAA. And the very latest is that the FAA says the crew of United Airlines Flight 1382 had to stop their takeoff from George Bush Intercontinental Airport because of a reported engine issue. That happened at around 8:35 a.m. local time this morning. We shared video acquired by Fox 26 Houston with you.
Even if you don't believe in conspiracies, this has got to make you pause. The fact that we've had so many accidents, plane crashes in under a week is highly suspicious. What are the odds of an American getting involved in a plane crash? 1 in 11 million. Did you know that? So here we are in less than a week. We've had a fighter jet crash in Alaska, January 28th. We've had a plane crash in Santa Barbara in California, January 29th. Black Hawk helicopter ran into a commercial plane, January 30th. January 31st, plane crash in Philadelphia. Is this all due to a staffing shortage or lack of poor management, lack of leadership, or is something else suspicious going on? I don't know, but it really bothers me, and I have no intention of getting on a plane anytime soon.
This commenter, Elo Echo 458, says, whispered outrage doesn't equate to having a valid point. Americans should hire based on excellence, nothing else.
Again, this is looking back, is that the whole concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion really started back in the 60s under John F. Kennedy in regards to creating processes to ensure that with all the discrimination, Jim Crow and stuff, and the obvious bias, blatant bias,
right,
where blacks and non-whites were barred from even having certain jobs. Not let alone even having positions, not even getting hired. Couldn't get hired in government jobs, couldn't get government contracts. So there are legal cases.
Couldn't get home loans.
Couldn't get home loans, red line. We
right.
go on. So when people sit there with this whispered outrage, they have historical amnesia. That's really what it is. You have historical, and even then, when you say historical, we're not talking about like early 1900. We're talking about one body ago. If you're talking about the average lifespan is 74 to 78 years, you're just talking about a one body issue. So it's not talking about multiple generations. So when people sit there with this some indignant self-righteousness, like, oh, this is just right, the issue is not about excellence. The question is that who defines that excellence, right? Who defines that, and then who then determines who gets the largesse of that? And when so many times that the door has been closed, that even if you have to have all the abilities, you still don't get that opportunity.
Exactly.
What's that? What's that in
Right, you have to be twice
as good to
right.
get half as much.
Right, absolutely.
And that's really what it is.
Right. Let's take professions like, I don't know, law or medicine or engineering or, you know, some of these high professional jobs.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are standardized tests that people have to take. Obviously, when you take those tests, they don't care whether you're brown or black or white. You have to pass those tests. But unfortunately, even after you've taken those tests and you've proven yourself and you come out into the real world, things aren't equal. So I don't know why people have a hard time understanding that there are many people who, despite having better qualifications, still don't get the job, still don't get the opportunity, purely because of the color of their skin. And you want to sit there and just talk about, oh, you know, we're picking based on excellence.
Even the facts show that if you look at now, have we gone better? In some ways we have, in some ways we still have a lot to do. And again, there's also issues in gender as well. So when we're talking about better, it's not, again, saying, oh, we should just put people in because of the color of their skin. That's not right either.
Absolutely not. I don't want a doctor who's not qualified, or a lawyer who's not qualified, or a pilot who's not qualified to, you know, to fly with me just because they're black. Hell no. I want someone who is qualified and has taken the standardized test and, you know, has demonstrated their ability.
Right. People are just getting triggered.
Right.
And so they just feel a certain way and they say, that's what it is. It's about excellence. And the thing is it really, or is it now more of a code word? So that's it. So you have to look at, are you just saying it, or are you ascribing that to a certain group of people?
Right. Or there's this is the other thing I see, the underlying thing that he's not saying directly. It's as if, oh, black and brown people aren't capable of having that same intellect, or aren't capable of excellence, which is absolute rubbish.
No, and that's why. No, and it is because
it's rubbish.
And it's been shown, and that's why there's been overt culturally to erase that. So that's why a lot of people, even in science, where you see a lot of people in our education don't see that a lot of the inventions like plasma or with vaccinations and stuff were done by black scientists, people of color. And even when working with the World Health Organization, you have scientists from all over the world sharing information, stuff like that. So, but you get this type of thing, it's like, oh, only when we say America, are we also including all Americans, which includes also Latinos and indigenous people and so forth? Are we talking about, wink wink, a certain type of American?
Right. They just want to suppress
and so let's be honest,
and negate everybody else's accomplishments.
I'd rather respect someone who's a racist, at least say they're a racist.
Right.
I can respect it. You stand by and say like, hey, you know, I'm for whites only. You know what? I don't agree with you, but at least I respect that you're honest with it. Versus someone that wants to hide behind acronyms, and they look at you and they go like, oh no, but then really it's a wink wink, and those are the ones that allow true injustice to occur because they just sit idly by and they really are part of the problem.
Well, let's talk about Robert Kennedy, shall we? Yep, boo-boo. What do you think about Robert Kennedy?
Show me a single statement I've made about science that is erroneous. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective. And it's very important to look at the role of psychiatric drugs in these shootings, particularly the SSRIs. A lot of the problems we see in kids, and particularly boys, it's probably underappreciated how much of that is coming from chemical exposures, including a lot of the sexual dysphoria that we're seeing. I think fluoride is a poison.
You said the following, and I quote, "We should not be giving black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that blacks need fewer antigens than...
This is so dangerous.
So you get the same measles vaccine.
Mr. Kennedy, with all due respect, that is so dangerous. Your voice would be a voice that parents would listen to. That is so dangerous. I will be voting against your nomination because your views are dangerous to our state and to our country.
Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as a
certain
yes.
races
I have to move on, Mr. I have to move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made
The guy's a mess. I mean, the guy's an absolute mess. Look, the whole point is that these confirmation hearings, unfortunately, is that it's really more about what goes on behind closed doors, not these confirmations, because they're coached. They're told to say whatever to get confirmed, and even like with Hedgepeth, for Secretary of Defense,
right?
I mean, it was a tie, and Vance broke it, so it can still be close. But the guy's an unmitigated mess, and that's what. And I'm saying that as an opinion, so he can't sue me for defamation. But he's a public figure, so he has to show actual malice. So good luck with that. But the point, man, is the guy's a mess, and he has no business dealing with medicine or anything that is of science.
Or in such a leadership position.
Man, it's
just crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, this guy's he's all over the map. And with conspiracy theories,
he sold his soul to the devil.
Well, but he sold his soul a long time ago. So I mean, he's part of he headed a nonprofit, made millions off of it, peddling all type of falsehoods and stuff like that. And
I'm really curious. Are there actually any physicians? Are there any physicians watching that actually support or believe J.F. Kennedy should be in the position that Robert Kennedy should be in the position that Trump is trying to put him in? Or are there even Republicans that are doctors who believe that Kennedy is the right person for the job right now? I'm really curious. Please comment.
I bet you there are some that do.
Dear Senators, throughout the past year, people have asked for my thoughts about my cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his presidential campaign. I did not comment, not only because I was serving in a government position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges. We are a close generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it's been, and we are always there for each other. But now that Bobby has been nominated by President Trump to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position that would put him in charge of the health of the American people, I feel an obligation to speak out. Overseeing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, agencies that are charged with protecting the most vulnerable among us, is an enormous responsibility, and one that Bobby is unqualified to fill. He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed. These facts alone should be disqualifying. But he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern. I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. That was a long time ago, and people can change. Through his own strength and the many second chances he was given by people who felt sorry for the boy who lost his father, Bobby was able to pull himself out of illness and disease. I admire the discipline that took and the continuing commitment it requires. But siblings and cousins who Bobby encouraged down the path of substance abuse suffered addiction, illness, and death, while Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life. Today, while he may encourage a younger generation to attend AA meetings, Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. Even before he fills this job, his constant denigration of our healthcare system and the conspiratorial half-truths he's told about vaccines, including in connection with Samoa's deadly 2019 outbreak of measles, have cost lives. And now we know that Bobby's crusade against vaccination has benefited him in other ways too. His ethics report makes clear that he will keep his financial stake in a lawsuit against an HPV vaccine. In other words, Bobby is willing to profit and enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safely administered to millions of boys and girls. During my time in Australia, I worked on the Quad Cancer Initiative, and I learned that cervical cancer is among the top 3 forms of cancer among women in a majority of countries. Tragically, every year, more than 200,000 children lose their mothers. They are orphaned due to a lack of vaccines and screening. Those are the real-world consequences of Bobby's irresponsible beliefs. We are a close family, and none of that is easy to say. It also wasn't easy to remain silent last year when Bobby expropriated my father's image and distorted President Kennedy's legacy to advance his own failed presidential campaign, and then groveled to Donald Trump for a job. Bobby continues to grandstand off my father's assassination and that of his own father. It's incomprehensible to me that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be put in charge of America's life and death situations. Unlike Bobby, I try not to speak for my father, but I am certain that he and my Uncle Bobby, who gave their lives in public service to our country, and my Uncle Teddy, who devoted his long Senate career to the cause of improving health care, would be disgusted. The American healthcare system, for all its flaws, is the envy of the world. Its doctors and nurses, researchers, scientists, and caregivers are the most dedicated people I know. Every day they give their lives to heal and save others. They deserve a knowledgeable leader who is committed to evidence and excellence. They deserve a secretary committed to advancing cutting-edge medicine to save lives, not to rejecting the advances we have already made. They deserve a stable, moral, and ethical person at the helm of this crucial agency. They deserve better than Bobby Kennedy, and so do the rest of us. I urge the Senate to reject his nomination. Sincerely, Carolyn Kennedy.
Right now, there's a movement in there that's part of Project 2025 is to break the government. And part of it is to sit there and break the Department of Health. I mean, they already removed, as part of Trump's executive order, to remove anything that is about gender. So on the CDC website and so forth, they've removed already information pages on HIV. They removed information. Yeah, it's not there. Go ahead, take a look at it. They remove information pages even on teen health. So basically, they're doing this wide range of just basically taking away information in the name of some sort of movement of saying, oh, we want to correct things. But again, this is that sledgehammer approach. You would think that just like the same thing they're doing with the budget, they're doing the same thing with information. This is not, you see this again, going back to excellence. Isn't being informed part of being excellent?
Right.
If we're a smart nation, don't we want as much information as possible so we as citizens can make that decision? That's called the marketplace of ideas, right? That's what democracy is. This is not one view or the other. This is having all views. You know, whether you like it or not, but it's to have them and then to have a healthy debate. But see, if you're starting to then remove views, just like banning books and censorship, that's not a democracy, and especially when it comes down to health. So how do parents or even advocates or physicians, nurses, therapists, how do you make the good decisions if you can't see what is the latest information and update?
It's very dangerous.
It's just stripping that stuff down.
He is dangerous, and this new process or whatever it is they're doing, very dangerous to healthcare.
The bottom line is that this guy should not be near anything that has to do with health. You talk about excellence.
Right,
you
I
need
was
to
just
put
thinking
people,
that. You talk about excellence, is that an example of excellence?
Put people who are qualified. See, that's what I'm saying. You talk about DEI hire, these are DEI hires.
Right.
You're hiring people because as a favor.
As a favor.
So is that how you promote
as a friend.
excellence?
Right.
So the same people that are making these comments, how do you justify that?
Right. Please justify that. Please.
Give me a break. See, that's what I'm saying. That's
the double standard.
It's an absolute double standard. All it is that there's no analytical thinking of like, what is the impact, right? This type of behavior, we're seeing some of the short-term impact already, and it's still being felt when they froze funding for all these programs capriciously, arbitrarily, in violation of federal law.
Right.
All right. USC statutes 702. I mean, they violate, not to mention constitutional issues. I mean, come on.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, black, white, you have probably felt it, especially if you are of lower income. You have felt it and will feel it.
It's not just lower income, it's also if you're a small business, because you have small businesses that are waiting on loans to small business, that got jammed up. If you're a small farmer, you had also loans that were going in for crops or also for livestock. You also had the clinics or funding in regards to mental health. We talk about mental health crisis. How can you just turn that off? Right? I mean, it's just on and on and on. So it's like, let's get real here. Is that how you manage things? That's like sitting there saying like, oh, you know, honey, we you know, our grocery bill is too high. So we have to figure out what's going on. So no one can eat in this house for a week until we figure out where that money is being spent. Would you run your household like that? Would you make a decision like that where you just stop everything until you figure out what's going on because of an issue? No. What you do is then you sit there and go, okay, let me look at where we're spending. In the meantime, we're still going to have our meals. We're still going to do it. But let's see, oh, wait a minute, we're spending this too much. Okay, cut this back. What, do we really need this? Do a review process. And of course, in the households, it's simpler. But for...
Well, he did go back on it, right? After all the outrage and confusion.
He says he's gone back, but there are still many programs that the funding hasn't flowed back. Because it's like anything else. Once you turn something off that's as complex...
Right. It's hard.
It's not just like you just turn it back on. Right. Because then, guess what? All these loans were then either were paused, they might have been canceled. That means you have to restart the program. I mean, there's a lot of different mechanisms that happen. So it's not that simple. Right. So people need to wake up a little bit and start saying like, you know what? The whole point of government is that it works for you. Republican or Democrat, that doesn't matter. As Americans, taxpayers, the government works for you. It should work for you.
Let's see what you think about transgenders in the military. You know, how Trump has obviously taken a stand wanting to remove service of transgender people in the military. What's your thoughts about that?
Look, I just want to keep serving. I'm at 19 and a half years. I have 60 combat missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm a certified test pilot, flown over 21 airframes and 1,700 flight hours in aircraft like the F-18 that you saw in Top Gun 2. I just want to keep doing my job. I'm looking to do another 10 years, and hopefully I'm able to do that. The military is a family business. I grew up around jets. When I was in elementary school, Blue Angels were practicing overhead every single day. It was my dream from being a kid. And so after I graduated from college, I joined up, and I was lucky enough to have the grades to get selected to JETS, and then go on to do those tours in Afghanistan.
Hey, my thoughts are is that if you want to serve this country, this great country, then serve. Mm-hmm. And so, again, as long as you don't have you compromise the mission or combat efficiency or the mission of the unit or the purpose of the the military command structure,
right,
that doesn't get compromised, I mean, so be it. The whole point is that if you have someone that wants to serve, and
I guess I'm trying to understand. All right, but well, before I do that, personally, I'm not in the military. I've worked with military people. Obviously, I did not serve in the military, and my thoughts are the same. If they want to serve, let them serve.
Look, when I served, that's back in the day, this back in Clinton, that's when we had the don't ask, don't tell, right? Mm-hmm. So the issue was, even before it was trans, it was just having gays in the military, right?
First it was the gays.
Obviously, you have gays. I mean, because homosexuals aren't
they've been here, they will always be here,
yeah, so
whether we like it or not.
And I've served with gay fellow officers. But the point of matter is that we focus on the mission. We focus on what we needed to do. We had work to do. So it's just like anything else. If you're professional and you do your deal.
What is his point about it? Does he feel like they're a distraction, or is it more of a moral issue, or is it more of the fact that he feels insurance should not be paying for their care, even though I don't see how that has anything to do with the ones that are in service.
I don't talk to him. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out in what way are they a hindrance to the work.
Again, I don't think that's the issue. The issue is just them being trans. I think that's just the whole issue. It's basically cutting them off at the legs, cutting off their health care, cutting off any type of federal benefits, cutting off any type of therapy or care to teens. It's just basically, it's creating a pariah state of this classification group of people.
I think a slightly different subject that we probably differ on, maybe, I don't know, but I've never been a fan of gender reaffirming surgery for minors. So on that subject, I would say I am in agreement with Trump's plans to hold or to make it unavailable to minors when it comes to gender reaffirming surgery or treatments and hormones. That has never been something that I have felt comfortable with. However,
I don't know about that, because I don't think the government has any business to be in regards to determination between the patient and that's a doctor-patient relationship, and if it's a minor. Yes.
Right, the minor.
But it's a minor, so unless you're saying that there should be more safeguards, but to unequivocally say that shouldn't happen at all, it's not taking into account the specific context of each individual case. And so I find that problematic. I believe in, this is why I don't understand conservatives, because conservatives, so-called true conservatives, and I come from a very conservative family, but it's about small government. But the point is that one key bedrock of conservatism is that small government. The government shouldn't have their hand in your pocket, in your wallet, or in your bedroom, or in your life. They should not be telling you where to get treatment.
Now, if the government doesn't have that ability, for example, in this particular case about minors, then who does?
That's the point. Well, who does?
Who is going to regulate or prevent those sort of situations from happening? When you see, for example, a 10-year-old boy taking hormones to become a little girl without having had the opportunity to know what it would be like.
The key word here is
and to make that decision for themselves.
The key word is regulate, not prohibit. That's a difference. You use the word regulate. Trump is saying prohibit, not even allowing any type of opportunity, because for that one that you say, should have that opportunity, there are those that, what about the 4, 5, 6 other ones that should have that, because they are psychologically experiencing they match and they do qualify under diagnosis of gender dysmorphia or whatever, and they do have psychological pain from it and so forth. So I just wanted to give a quick addendum to some of the discussion points that we've had just the other day, and just giving an update. One is on the issue of the transgender ban in the military. Just want to let you know. So again, this is again a repeat. Trump 2.0. He did this on the first administration. And now a lawsuit has been filed on January 27th, Talbot versus Trump. And again, the grounds is constitutional for under equal protection from the Fifth Amendment in regards that all citizens should have equal protection under the law. And so this is where we're going to keep a close eye and whether the Supreme Court will pick this up. They deferred last time and allowed the ban to be in place until there was proper studies. Now that we've had over 4 to 5 years of study, so we'll see how this progresses. But again, this is under the Equal Protection Clause, and also in regards to having animus, targeting specific groups, particularly those with immutable traits, just as race. We're talking about sex, race, and so forth. So, see, this is the thing. It's what we call creating a straw man, creating the boogeyman. It's always every time through this culture we look at and saying whether it be the gays or the blacks or whoever, we create these instances of other groups and saying they're the cause of all these problems.
Right. Trying to pit one against the other.
But the number
it's
of
a distraction.
the number
I get
of
that.
transgender people in
It's
the
a
United
very
States,
small percentage in the United
States. It's not even 0.5%.
Right.
That's what I'm
But we've
saying.
made it this bigger issue, or he's made it this bigger issue. And I think part of that is because of his friendship or allegiance with Elon Musk. And for those that don't know, Elon Musk actually has a transgender daughter. He had a child that was born, biological boy, that has been living as a female. And if you look it up, you will find this is something that has deeply disturbed Elon Musk, and he made, I guess, an agreement or arrangement with Trump that would be something that they address or deal with. So I understand where it's coming from. And like I said, I have my own point of view.
Yeah, I have mine.
And Kenton has his, and you may have yours. But again, we veered off the issue of the military. In my opinion, that whole issue with young people or minors is a completely separate issue from, transgender service people and him not wanting that to take place or wanting to get rid of them. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, if they can do the job, and they are professional doing their work, what does it matter? But I guess to certain conservatives, maybe it's a problem. On the side, people have been saying is this is the time to save your money. This is the time to invest. This is definitely not the time to be shopping recklessly, because we might, be moving towards hard times.
Trump says the American people can expect, quote unquote, short-term disruption, and that, quote unquote, the American people will understand when it comes to his tariffs that he is putting on Canada and Mexico and China today. 25% apiece for Canada and Mexico, 10% for China. Here's the thing that you can expect. Your gas prices to go up. Your meats to go up. Eggs have already gone up, but expect them to go up again. Your agriculture to go up. Your beer and wine to go up. Car parts to go up. Car payments to go up. Used cars to go up. And that's the tip of the iceberg.
That's why I'm so sick of these bitches. I've been like you around. You won't say something like that. You won't say something like that. I don't understand how you gonna connect and you understand what you want to say. Next time I wake up, you can just look me wrong. You gonna do.
That's actually now that you brought that up, because technically tomorrow, Saturday, he would have started tariffs against Canada and Mexico, and so now it'll go into effect on Saturday, but it won't technically go full in effect until 30 days. That's why he's doing it on February 1st.
I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago. But it doesn't have to be this way. As I've said before, if President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us.
So by the end of February, so March 1st, that's when the collections start. So it's just part of the negotiation process to see if there be any change in some of his demands. But it's reason to expect that if you're watching this by Sunday, that he should be putting in up to 25% tariffs against goods and services.
So specifically, what kinds of goods and services would you expect to go up?
Well, I mean, from Mexico, a lot of it would be produce.
Like avocados.
Yeah. So
for those of you that love your avocados,
so
guacamole.
You're going to get a lot of produce. You're also going to have automobile parts from Mexico.
Donald Trump just lost Fox News. Today, they played this graphic that listed every single item whose price will go up now thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs. This list is long, and they didn't hesitate for 1 second. It just continues to go on. Look at this list. Meat, fruit, vegetables, the auto industry. Every American, especially the ones who voted for Donald Trump, should see this whole list.
From Canada is, interesting enough, oil. So that might raise gas prices. I don't know if he'll do that or not. But automobiles come from Canada, as well as also produce, maple syrup, stuff like that. So, again, we already see prices are still high. Gas prices haven't come down, and also produce. So, again, we'll see what kind of shocks are going to come our way. So that goes into what you're saying, is that the time to be fiscally prudent.
Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time, to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives.
People are struggling right now. Prices are, high as it is. It's difficult to get a job. Cost of housing is high. This is sort of a really bad time to engage in tariff wars.
I really don't want Donald Trump to do that to us. We're sisters. This is our sister. We're North America. We have to look out for each other.
It's equally going to hurt them because all the oil that's going to be imported. I don't think it's going to be a win-win for anybody.
I can only hope it will backfire on the states, because I want to buy a new car and I don't want that to cost a lot more than it was going to last week.
It's been a struggle since COVID anyway, so I think this is just going to make things a little more difficult.
I know for me, I try not to worry. It's out of my control, and what will happen will happen.
Le planteé siempre que queríamos que pusiera en pausa las tarifas desde el primer momento, los aranceles. Entonces, en este caso llegamos a ese acuerdo, pero también le expliqué pues la gravedad de la cantidad de armas de alto poder que entran desde Estados Unidos a México. Él hizo varias propuestas y finalmente pues llegamos al acuerdo que está en el acuerdo que se puso.
developing story as we are hearing that President Trump has agreed to pause tariffs on Mexico for 1 month in exchange for Mexico placing troops along the border. Let's head back out to this, the post from the president via Truth Social, and I do want to bring it to you here in full, as it says this. I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico.
All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Hopefully, we look forward to seeing your comments. And again, feel free to disagree. Just keep it, just be respectful, basically. We can disagree, but just be respectful. And don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't.
And share.
Oh, by the way, a lot of people have actually commented that they are not getting our videos, that it's not popping up. You know, it's not coming up to you. So I don't know. Again, sometimes YouTube does different things. Please check to make sure that you are subscribed and make sure that you're hitting the bell notification. Hit that bell notification below. That way, when we upload, you see the videos come to you. Because again, we want you to see it, okay, as we move slowly closer and closer to 100,000K. Slowly.
But we thank you. We thank everyone that supports us and listening and being part of the community and sharing.
Right.
And yeah, we're more than happy to get your insights and so forth. So we welcome everybody.
All right, y'all. Bye.